Well. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76, Entertainment and Media. First of all, please like this stream, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. As many of you know, I've taken the House of Brands approach. So there are 4 Big Discussions 76 channels. This is my smallest one, but I think it's seen some growth recently. And as 2021 goes on, I plan to do more collaborations. And I think that, as the image guy says, one of the keys to growing in YouTube is collaboration. So we're gonna have some fun today. As you can see, well, I just introduced myself, but today I am Lucius Fox. So I decided to shake things up a little bit and go with the Morgan Freeman / Lucius Fox avatar. And because today we are going to be discussing the star of the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, Christian Bale. So I thought this would be fun. And plus, my guest, Officer Charles Faulkner, he always uses a creative avatar when he goes into live streams or when he hosts live streams. Excuse me. So that's going to be our topic today. So I'm not going to overwhelm you guys with science like I did over on my science channel last week, but instead we're just gonna talk a little bit about this topic: is Christian Bale the worst Batman / Bruce Wayne of all time? I did not come up with this topic. Well, actually, I thought it was worth discussing in a live stream, but as is often the case in the YouTube streets, if you sit in on certain conversations, you hear certain things, and sometimes you hear things that surprise you. And there apparently are people out there who think that Christian Bale was the worst of all the Batmans / Bruce Waynes. So that's why I set up this platform. As I'll describe, I was a bit of a comic book junkie at one point. I love the movie adaptations now. And I think about movies all the time. I watch movies all the time. And, you know, I'm reading all kinds of books. And so I started this channel as a media channel. So pretty much anything goes. So, and we're here, and that's, you know, and this happens with media. You know, one person likes it, one person loves it, another person hates it. And these make for very, very fun conversations. I see Black Uru is here. Over on the Roger Report this week, the Roger Report turned into a basketball barbershop with Black Uru and BGS. And I was inspired by that, and I'd like to have one of those over on my sports channel. So don't be surprised if I ask you guys about coming over to my sports channel and us just having a little basketball barbershop for a couple of hours. So Charles is going to show up at some point, but I'm going to give a little introduction, as I always do, before my guest shows up. So before I get into talking about Batman and Bruce Wayne and how and my personal connection with that franchise, I'm going to show you guys something that I just created, and I think it very much fits well with this platform, and I'll be showing this on pretty much all of my platforms. Give me 1 second. So as all of you know, and if you don't know, I came to YouTube as a writer first. I'm working on a book project right now, and a lot of YouTube content creators have come to YouTube as writers first. So this is my new website. It's called Big Words Authors. And this geez, what do you call that? The title, the byline, whatever you call that. The heading, it says book projects, essays, short stories, and poetry. So as all of you know, I am a regulatory scientist, and you know, I'm working on my own book project. And so, you know, as I've been doing this, one of my questions has been, how do you go from being a federal worker to being an author? How do you go from sitting in a cubicle, going over regulations and sitting in meetings to becoming an author? You have to get your start somewhere. And I got my start writing for Examiner.com. I started my own blogging platform, the Big Words blog site. And so now I've started Big Words Authors as a platform to show my own writing chops, but also to as a launching pad for my own book project, but also as a platform for other younger writers like me who want to write something and get their name out there in the World Wide Web, but don't know where to start. That's why I started this platform. So it's pretty much dedicated to literary writing, book projects, essays, short stories, and poetry. I'm just going to show you. I'm going to take a quick walkthrough for the people who are watching this live and the people who are going to watch this on the playback. So I created a page called Writing Categories. Again, book project samples, essays, short stories, poetry. I'll probably expand this as I go on. And by the way, I went with the outdoors theme here. So pretty much every page has a picture of the outdoors somehow. Writing tips. This was partially for me. I created a page with just listing out some things for younger and aspiring writers to think about. A glossary of writing terms, proofreading, self-editing, giving inanimate objects ownership. That's a rule I've broken quite a few times, which my mother has reminded me of. Your personal writing style, knowing how to QA and QC your own work before showing it to others. That's one page. Favorite books. The Autobiography of Malcolm X. Kingdom Come. This is very germane to what we're going to be discussing today. And I have some other books here. The Lord of the Rings series, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Outliers, and On Writing by Stephen King. So that's one page. Guidelines. So if you are an Corinne Henry's here, wow, the whole gang's coming out. If you are an aspiring writer and you're watching this and you want to submit something at some point, this page lists out the guidelines for submitting something. If it's a book excerpt, a short story, an essay, poetry, whatever. I talk about length, reasonable grammar, unsuitable content, visuals, and a brief bio by you, the author. Payment. So I'm in the process of populating the site now. I've invited some veteran. Let me slow down here. I've invited some veteran writers to submit things so that I just uploaded my first short story last week. So this is, when you start something new, it takes time to build. But for aspiring writers, if someone comes to me and wants to publish something, there is a fee of $15. That's what I've gotten over on my blogging platform for blog posts. But also the platform does have an annual fee, and also it takes effort and work for me to get writing from someone else and to publish it up, put the thumbnails in, add the hyperlinks. So all that is work intensive. But also the price is negotiable. And if you find that you're coming to the site pretty regularly, or if you read something that you like here, there's a donation button as well. So people are free to donate $1 or whatever. And there's a donation button on the front page as well. I just published my first short story this week. I'm almost done, guys. It's called The Happy Couple Who Commuted on the Yellow Line. And that is about a couple that I saw on the Metro every morning prior to COVID-19. And they looked pretty happy together, which we don't always see today. So that's my first short story. And I'll be writing more stuff, and I'll be inviting other people to upload content and stories. And this is also open for young and aspiring writers as well. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to leave the link for this in the chat, and also the link for this, my new this writing platform is also going to be beneath this video as well. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, and if you follow my other channels, you'll see this website again some more because I just started it. So I have to get the word out about it. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, let's talk about Batman. I have a few discussion points here before Charles shows up. So my history with Batman, and this is just for context. My history with Batman actually goes back to, I need to close this Facebook out. My history with Batman actually goes back to the Super Friends. I was born in the mid-70s, which means that, you know, I started coming of age in the 80s. And this is one of the cartoons that I watched often as a youngster. The Super Friends with Batman, Superman, Robin, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and the Wonder Twins, and the monkey. I think the monkey's name was Gleek or Glick or something like that. The Wonder Twins, I think when they tap their two rings together, they could transform into other things. But this was kind of cheesy, and this was kind of a very, very campy depiction of the Super Friends and the DC heroes. And there's a very, very good documentary on YouTube right now about how and why they started Batman, the animated series. And it turns out that in the 70s and the 80s, I think they couldn't show violence in the cartoons, which is why you had very, very campy and cheesy depictions of our superheroes, as was in this version of the Super Friends. Now, at some point, they rolled out Challenge of the Super Friends. And I thought this was cool because the Wonder Twins were gone. And there was another version of the Super Friends where they had two other young kids with a little dog, but they were all gone. And now you also had Green Lantern and Hawkman and Apache Chief, and I can't think of the Asian guy's name, and that guy's, I don't think his name is Black Lightning. I can't think of the guy, the brother, the soul brother. I can't think of his name. If someone in the chat can think of it, let me know. But this also introduced the villains like Bizarro and Lex Luthor and Toyman and Black Manta and the Cheetah and Sinestro. And so this was all part of my early experience with the DC heroes and Batman in particular. When I was young in the 80s, we saw reruns of this Batman, this Adam West version. And so this was also a very campy and as we will see, a very cheesy version of Batman. And it was kind of funny to look at times. The bam, the pow, the sock, the fights with the villains, and it was just a very, very funny version of the Batman. So in the late 80s, there was a bit of a shift, and that started with I think the shift started with The Dark Knight Returns, which was, geez, I can't think of who wrote that. But to make a long story short, that created a darker version of Batman and Bruce Wayne. He was older in that comic book. I have it. My brother gave it to me. I'm just about at the end, but it created a more older, grizzled, bitter, angry version of Batman. And that gave rise to the Tim Burton, Michael Keaton Batman, which I believe that movie was produced and released in 1989. You had the Prince soundtrack. Jack Nicholson played the Joker. He played his iconic role as the Joker. And so that's when there was a bit of a shift in the Batman character. Around that time, I started collecting DC comic books, and one of the series that I started collecting was the Batman, the New Adventures, and I don't remember those being anything like the Adam West or the Super Friends iteration of Batman. It was dark. Characters were dying. I think the Robin character eventually died in that series. This is Kingdom Come. This is a very, very fun graphic novel, and this is on that website I just showed you guys. One of my favorite books that I listed is Kingdom Come. Characters, it's got very mature themes. Characters die. Some characters turn evil, and it has a bit of a biblical theme too. So I'm saying all this to say that it changed. The Batman character changed in the late 80s going forward. Around that time, Batman the Animated Series started. And if I recall correctly, I do remember at least my last 2 years of high school coming home and watching Batman the Animated Series. It was very mature. There was violence, and there's a documentary on this on YouTube if you want to watch it, discussing the whole thing. But it was very mature. It was a much different take on Batman, and at least in the animated sense. Now we know that Mark Hamill did a really good job playing the Joker, voicing the Joker for this iteration of Batman. But as I was putting this live stream together, I was thinking that my favorite villain in that series was Clayface. And I didn't really have any experience with Clayface up to that point. But it turns out that Clayface, just briefly, the story revolved around this actor, Matt Hagen. And Matt Hagen was a very accomplished actor. Somehow his face became deformed, and he started taking this substance. Where's that picture? I see you back there, Charles. I'm almost done. Matt Hagen started taking bear with me 1 second here. There he is. Matt Hagen started taking that ointment, that skin cream right there in his hand, which made him better temporarily, and he got involved in some criminal activity with one of the goons in Gotham City. And in one scene, they gave him an overdose of that stuff on his face, and to turn him into Clayface, this creature right here. I think it was a two-parter, because at the end of the first part, he started to impersonate Bruce Wayne. And then at the end of the second part, when Batman defeats Clayface, Batman's talking to Alfred, and he realizes, okay, Clayface probably faked his own death. So he's probably still out there running around somewhere. So just briefly, before I bring Charles up, I see a bunch of comments here. Before I bring Charles up, the Batman character, what I realized at some point is that it became like a James Bond type thing. If you remember the James Bond series, you had a number of actors coming through and playing that character. You had Sean Connery, Roger Moore, Pierce Brosnan, Daniel Craig. You had all these guys coming through playing James Bond. Well, the similar thing is true for Batman. We started with, even though Adam West, I think there might have been a TV movie with Adam West, but Adam West played him, right? And then in the late 80s, Michael Keaton played him for 2 movies. And the rumor is he's going to come back with some sort of multiverse thing with this new iteration of the DC characters. From Michael Keaton, we went to Val Kilmer. And you guys might laugh at this, but for a while, Val Kilmer was my favorite because of how he played the role in Batman Forever. From there, I think they tanked the original franchise by bringing in George Clooney for this fiasco with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Uma Thurman and Alicia Silverstone played Batgirl. So I thought this was, I think they just completely tanked it with this one. And then Christopher Nolan took it in the early 2000s with his Dark Knight trilogy, which is what we're going to talk about today. And honestly, after seeing the Michael Keaton Val Kilmer thing, I didn't know anything about Ra's al Ghul. I didn't know anything about Lucius Fox. I didn't know anything about those characters. So the first part of the Batman Begins, I kind of didn't know what was going on. But the more I watched it, because I got the DVD, I started to fall in love with it. I thought that in the first movie, this depiction of Batman and his villains, like the Scarecrow, Cillian Murphy as the Scarecrow, I thought they nailed it. I thought they nailed what the Gotham is supposed to be. I thought they nailed what the whole Batman world is supposed to be. You're supposed to have this detective, and you're supposed to have these really, really twisted criminals. Some are crazy, some are geniuses, like the Scarecrow. And it's at some point the story, the story is supposed to reach some level of insanity, and like this scene right here, where Batman makes the Scarecrow take his own hallucinogen. I just thought that they nailed it in that first movie. The more and more I watched it. Of course, we went to The Dark Knight, where Heath Ledger kind of stole the show, and then a lot of folks were disappointed with the Dark Knight Returns. But I thought that they did a decent job with the Dark Knight trilogy. It was more modern. It was darker than the other ones, and I thought it was a little more high tech. And that was followed up with the Ben Affleck iteration of Batman. So this is the whole Zack Snyder, Joss Whedon, Batman versus Superman thing. I was disappointed to see Christian Bale go. I thought that they should have kept him going somehow. My brother said he got tired of wearing the suit. But I guess they just needed to change it over. And then what we know now, and Ben Affleck, once we saw the Snyder cut, I thought that he did the character well. And I actually did like Batman versus Superman. I didn't like the fact that Superman died in that first movie. And what we're going to see next, apparently, is this Robert Pattinson, the Batman iteration here. So that's an overview of my history with the character and how I've seen the character change and transform over the years. My guest is here. Charles is here. So for those of you who don't know, we have an official greeting or salute when Charles comes in. Charles, I'm going to bring you into the stream right now. And I'm going to commence our ritual.
Woo!
What's going on?
Hey, Doc. Just the Doc and the cop once again.
The Doc and the cop. That's right.
Oh, yeah. I keep telling people, man, the greatest Batman on screen is going to be Ben Affleck, man. He embodies he's the combination of what Batman should be physically. Stoic. He's been through some sugar honey iced tea. He's the man.
Okay.
Then on top of that, you can see I love the battle-worn Batman because he's been at it for a while. Like a younger Batman wouldn't play too well in the DC extended universe because he's got to be the glue, and it's very hard for a young Bruce Wayne to be the glue when he's fighting himself.
Okay. So did you Okay, so you think the Ben Affleck Batman was the number one. What didn't you like about the Christian Bale? Because you talked about that during the Snyder Cut. Did you think that he was too what? He was too European. He wasn't grizzled enough. What didn't you like about him?
He didn't play. He didn't play. He didn't play Bruce and Batman as two separate characters.
Okay.
I'll give you a good example. If you look at the Chris Reeve Superman, he played Superman and Clark differently. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So
what you say?
He pretty much had him as the same person. Excuse me for 1 second.
All right. All right. Well, that is a good point. Christopher Reeve did do an excellent job of playing his version of Clark Kent, which was kind of aloof, kind of nerdy, kind of awkward, and then he was able to transform completely into the Man of Steel. So that's an excellent point. And I guess when you think about the Christian Bale, Bruce Wayne, and Batman, I guess, yeah, you can make the argument that the line between the two was a little more blurry than Christopher Reeve's Clark Kent and his Superman. So that is a good point.
And another point that I made was Ben Affleck's Batman had all the best features of Batman with almost none of the drawbacks. He was the tech guy, the spy guy, the James Bond, like you said earlier. He was also the martial artist. I mean, brutal martial artist. I mean, that was some of the most brutal fighting you've seen of Batman in decades. Like, I mean, he was just brutalizing people the way Batman would.
Yeah.
He had the Alfred. I love the dynamic between him and Alfred. I mean, the Alfred dynamic is about equal for Bale and Affleck, because I like both Alfreds. Alfred should always be the can take you a smart ass, but also the father figure or the character or the family member to Bruce. He's the person who keeps Bruce grounded.
Mm-hmm.
He's the guy who's always going to he's going to get in Bruce's ass when it needs to be. Like, he doesn't care if I'm your butler, I'm still your friend and your family. I didn't see the same fighting from Bale's, because it's like, okay, you're spinning in circles. Batman's not a circular guy. He fights like a juggernaut. Like, he's doing the most effective pressure points, whatever martial art out of 127 martial arts he knows. He's using the most effective techniques ever. And he's going to keep doing that no matter what. He's going to be the thinker. He's going to be the gadgeteer. Notice he had more vehicles. Hold on.
Mm-hmm. By the way, there was one day in Northern Virginia, close to my job, someone was driving a replica of the Michael Keaton Batmobile down Route 1 in Arlington, Virginia. And I think I was sitting there waiting for the bus. And all of a sudden, the Michael Keaton Batmobile rolled right past me. I don't know if there was some sort of con that weekend, or if it was on its way to a museum, but I did see that one day. Some of these comments here. Black Uru Strike says, I am a fan of Val Kilmer. His Doc Holliday is one of the most memorable performances of the 1990s, but you cannot have a blonde Bruce Wayne. That's blasphemous. Okay. Corrine Henry says, my favorite is Michael Keaton. Iconic for me. The first Batman movie I saw as a child. Christian Bale, Val Kilmer, Ben Affleck, and George Clooney. Rob, I think she means Robert Pattinson. LOL, Black Uber Strikes. I like him as an actor as well. Yeah, Val Kilmer was in some pretty good stuff. Wolf 58 says, yeah. Wolf says, yeah, okay, Michael Keaton is also in the discussion. You know, it took me a moment because I grew up in the 80s. I saw Michael Keaton play in stuff like Mr. Mom, which was kind of a dramatic but a funny role as well. Especially when the kid, I think there was one scene in that movie where he gave his daughter ate a can of chili, and of course she, but it took me a moment to kind of, similar with Robert Downey Jr. It took me a moment to sit and look at the screen and say, okay, Michael Keaton is a hero. He's Batman.
I think Michael Keaton was he was the Batman that you needed for that time.
Mm-hmm.
Some people might say he's the best on screen, but I think he's second. He doesn't have the physically imposing structure that Affleck has. I mean, Affleck's naturally 6'3", 6'4". So he's going to come off. You put 15, 20 pounds of muscle on him, he's going to be imposing. So it makes sense. I like his character. I like his draw. But it's a little bit different.
Okay. Let me get through a few more of these comments here. Ben Affleck in Batman vs. Superman was as close to the real essence of Batman the cinema has ever gotten. Wow. Corinne Henry says, his role to me was iconic. The only slight criticism is that he should have bulked up more. I like how Ben Affleck looked. Black Uru Strike says, Black Lightning is right. So I think he likes that character who's playing Black Lightning, who was the guy from Living Single. Wolf 58 says, true, but the movie was terrible. I think Wolf is talking about Batman vs. Superman. I have to watch movies a few times. And once I watched Batman vs. Superman a couple of times, I loved it. I just didn't like that they killed Superman at the end. I thought you should wait a little while before killing Superman. Black Uru Strikes. I wish the DCEU had followed through with Affleck's Batman movie. Wolf 58 says the introduction of Black Lightning and Apache Chief was an effort to be more ethnically diverse. Okay, so that was Black Lightning in the Super Friends.
Well, he was called Black Bolt in the Super Friends. So
okay,
it's basically a prelude to the character anyway. Pretty much the same character. Jefferson Pierce is a very intelligent guy. He's supposed to be an Olympic gold medalist in track, but also has several degrees in education. So he's an educated guy. He goes back to the community, and he plays a lot of layers. I think actually, if you think about it, with his powers of electricity and electromagnetism, he's probably one of the most powerful characters in the DC universe.
Mm-hmm.
And even for Batman v Superman, this is the reason why I hate theatrical releases, is because they butcher the hell out of the story. When you see, it's like Justice League. People complain about 4 hours. Like, half of you motherfuckers go in some of the cities you live in, you're in traffic longer or just as long. You could have watched the movie there. But the craziness of it also tells us how short of an attention span we really have. So you can't deny that, the Snyder Cut was a good damn movie. I would put that against many Marvel movies. And I like the fact that they took a lot of the hokey, Josh Whedon, Disney-tron BS out of it. So everybody's going to try to compare that to the Marvel universe, where they're doing some hokey stuff. Like, it's funny. If the scene in Justice League the scene in Justice League when Batman was facing off against Superman was facing off against Wonder Woman, if that would have been in Marvel, Superman would have got his ass kicked. And I want people to think about that. They're into that girl power, representation matters. Like, representation matters to me when it's in context. Would it make sense to have a black superhero in Baltimore? Yes, it's roughly 70% black. There's a large black population in DC as well. So it would make sense. Now, do we need a black superhero in Iowa? It wouldn't be. It would be.
Yeah. Kareem Henry says, Black Uber strikes. Do you think Robert Pattinson? How do you think Robert Pattinson will do in the next movie? Black Uber Strike says Keaton was surprisingly good as Batman. Prior to that, he had mostly been a goofball, a comedic actor. Kareem Henry, I'm suspicious of how it will go, but I don't know. I have aged out of 3. The target market, so I do not expect it to be what I would want. Kareem Henry says older generation should be their target market. We have the money and the emotional connection. We just lost Charles momentarily. Black Uru Strike says, I think Connery would have played Bond until his death if he wanted to. Little Rock 2517 says, yo. And he says, woo. Cynical, pissed off, jaded. Affleck's version is the best. Okay. I am going to drop the link in the chat. I suspect Charles will come back at some point, but it appears you all have opinions on this as well. And so let's hear what you guys think about your favorite Batman or anything else DC or comic book related. So I'm going to drop the link in the chat right now. Also, if you haven't, please like the stream. There is the StreamYard link. Hopefully you guys can see it. Sometimes there are technical glitches and the audience can't see the link. So the link is there. Black Uru Strike says the Christian Bale Batman. Let's see. We're not 3-dimensional characters. So I think he's talking about Christian Bale not being a 3-dimensional character like Christopher Reeve's Superman was. Let's see. Black Guru says Christopher Reeves appeared to enjoy being Superman. It came across in his performance. Yeah, agree. I agree. Okay, I can see the StreamYard link there on the YouTube side. So you guys should be able to see it as well. If anyone wants to come up and weigh in on this topic. Yeah, I thought that I was a child during Christopher Reeve's run. And I thought that the first 2 movies were gold, the motion picture and Superman 2 with General Zod and his cronies. And after that, it just kind of tanked. So, but those first 2 movies with Christopher Reeve, yeah, those will always be certified gold, in my opinion.
Sorry about that, Doc.
That's all right. That's all right. Anyone else wants to come up? The link is right there.
Sometimes, like, I don't know how much when I left off, but like I was saying about the representation in comics, I don't know how much you all heard, but I like representation within context. Like, you're in the DC area, I'm in the Baltimore area.
Yeah.
Correct. So it would make sense to have a black superhero because you have a predominantly black cities. Do we necessarily need a black hero in Iowa? Maybe so, yes so. Can it work if you get the good enough writing? And I think what a lot of it, gets troubled is that you have people who want to put different sexualities, nationalities, race, and creeds and religions in, but they don't tell a compelling enough story for it to sell. And it shows the lack of creative writing. Like, there's one book they're going to come out with I'm not a Starfire. It's supposed to be a one shot of her daughter in the future who wants to be, you know, a goth girl, chubby and the writer literally wrote her life in the book, being a lesbian woman who's chubby with black hair. I'm like, that's cool and all, but what's wrong with being your parents or having superpowers? Is it going to be a good, compelling story, or you're just writing a narrative to push an agenda?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where a lot of people get caught up. Instead of actually telling the compelling story, they will just say, hey, we're going to give you this black character and we're going to make a big fuss about it. And now this character is going to be in the wayside like they did Riri Williams. And I can compare Riri to Sam Wilson when he becomes Captain America. It was the natural transition. Just like you had Miles Morales. You didn't care that Miles was Afro-Latino. You cared because he was a compelling character. You presented him before he became Spider-Man. You talked about why. What was his reasoning? What was his life like prior to getting superpowers? And I think we lose concepts on that one. But I know this is a Batman show, so we're going to go back to it.
Okay. Well, your discussion about not needing a minority superhero in Iowa. Are you saying that they're just putting heroes in random places now, or
they're putting heroes in random places? Like, could it be something different to have a black superhero? You have a compelling enough story. Like, what would his struggles be as a hero? And it could be, yes, you could put some difficulties about being black in a 98% white state, but they're not writing the material where it gets to the point where that character is going to be phased into the background instead of being put up into the in the forefront. Let me give you an example. When they had Riri Williams as the new Iron Man or Ironheart, it was a big deal. Oh, this black girl is intelligent enough. She hacked Tony Stark's stuff, and Tony Stark is going to be her Jarvis. Then after a year or 6 months, the character died off, and she's put back into the back frame where she's I believe she's on the Champions team. But you literally made her the new Iron Man for like 6 months to a year. It died off, and you're not even building this character in any shape and form compared to what we've seen with for instance, with Luke Cage.
Okay. I don't know if you got cut off there, Charles. Let's see. I'm going to read through a few more of these comments till you come back. AD says Keaton. I think that was probably his favorite Batman. Corrine Henry. I just noticed, Corrine, that you're in this picture with Shamar Moore. I hated Batman vs. Superman. Okay, Corrine's coming up. Hello there.
Hey guys. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Oh wow. So I was listening to what Charles was saying. I read what Mr. Uru says about your reasoning why you think Ben Affleck portrayal of Batman is the best so far. I have to say, I still have to say Michael Keaton. I mean, as a child, I grew up with my brothers. My mom brought us to see that movie. That was like one of the first, I think, movie I saw as a child coming to the States. And I don't know. I loved it. I loved his portrayal of it. I mean, was he as big as Ben Affleck? No. Was he the physical? No, he wasn't as big as Ben Affleck. I felt like yes, he could have been bigger and more brooding, more stoic. But I just loved Michael Keaton portrayal. Maybe it's a nostalgia. It's nostalgia, I guess. But you never forget that feeling as a kid. So, and he made me. I never really liked DC. I never really liked the characters in DC. My brothers did, but from watching that movie, he made me like Batman movies, and ever since I watched all the Batman movies because of that portrayal I saw as a kid. So that's why I feel like his portrayal was like it for me.
I like that, but like I always said, this is the problem about being first. A lot of times we like the character because he was the first one. And here's the problem. When you look at the Batman and you look at Bruce portrayal as, Bruce Wayne, the only thing is, and I'm talking about the Batman v Superman, the only thing that's really holding Bruce together is Batman and Alfred. He's lost a Robin. He's stoic. He showed dimensions. Now, I'm not going to beat anybody over the head because of differences of 2013 or what was it, about 14, 15 versus 89. And we're not going to try to, beat people over the head with it because of the time differences. But when you see the portrayals, you see you see a man who's really masked when he's Bruce, compared to, let's say, like the Michael Keaton, where he's masked as Batman. And anybody who follows Batman knows that Bruce has always been the mask. Like, Bruce died when his parents died in a lot of ways. And when you get to see, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I thought you was done because you was quiet.
No, go ahead.
You make a compelling argument about that. I see your point, and like I said, you guys make a compelling point. I just,
No, it's nostalgia.
That feeling you get when you first, you see him on screen as a kid.
Yes, the nostalgia point.
That never goes away. And even when I watch it now, like I watched it recently a couple of years ago, I still get that feeling. So I yes, your point of view is compelling.
It's funny because when you see a Batman that's not wearing, and the thing that killed me with all these Batmen prior to that, he's wearing all black. Like, okay, he wears gray and black, and a lot of times you're looking at him and you're like, okay, that's not the character I remember. when I saw Affleck in one of the promotional trailers or one of the posters, I'm like, my God, he looked like he stepped out of a goddamn comic book. The same way when I looked at Henry Cavill, and they're like, well, this pretty boy gonna play Superman. And when you see him in a costume, you're like, my God, that looks like Superman. I mean, think about it. This is somebody's first time. This is somebody's first time viewing Wonder Woman. And if anybody who grew up in the 70s or the 80s like I did, your first time seeing Wonder Woman was Linda Carter. And it's funny because if you take a look at Gal Gadot's take on it, she's not a bad take. And you're looking at her like, notice in her movie, she's never trying to downgrade men. She's elegant, and she's an effective fighter. I mean, you should be. You're 5,000 years old with a bunch of warrior women. You should know how to throw hands. But notice it's a progression. She's not She's not afraid to be a feminine woman. She's not afraid to take the fight to the guy. She's not afraid to be a caring person. So when I look at the portrayals now, and guess what? I mean, I look at the same way with Christopher Reeves. Christopher Reeves is that man. But I love Henry Cavill's version because a lot of people don't realize this. That Man of Steel was a effing masterpiece.
It was. Sorry to interrupt you. I keep doing that. It was.
Oh yeah, you can interrupt me. You can interrupt me anytime. It's comics, man.
And for me, I know people rave about Henry Cavill, but I love the whole Kryptonian storyline that they delved into. Because that sequence, the first maybe hour of the movie, was freaking amazing. Loved it. Loved Man of Steel for that.
And I like to piggyback off of what you said. That was the first time we, as an audience, seen Krypton prior to this destruction. You know, like prior to like, how was life on Krypton? Like, what did they do? How did they react to each other?
Yeah.
And oh, go ahead.
I was like when what's his name? What's the guy? The actor, the Australian guy. Oh, what's his name? I keep
Russell
forgetting
Crowe.
his name. Russell Crowe. Yes, thank you. Russell Crowe. Yo, he's a good actor. I have to give him. I don't like his personality, but I have to say this man is a good actor. I mean,
it was compelling, man. It was very compelling because the one thing you never realized is that this whole story was about a man trying to live up to the legacy of two fathers.
True.
While finding his own. And I've always surmised, came to the summary. The story of Man of Steel was the story of the average black man in America trying to find your way. He can easily say, you know what, superhero business ain't for me. I'm done. Boom. But he combined the best of what both fathers taught him and made the best out of it. And I think that a lot of black males can agree when we get and black women as well, we're not going to exclude you up. He took the best out of both philosophies and developed his own. And when you saw the progression of Superman, he's a man losing his smile, and rightfully so, because as we all know, the world can be very, very unforgiving. It can be very selfish. They expect you. And it struck a chord with me as a police officer, as a former Army soldier. A lot of work you do will go off thankless. You can save a bunch of lives, but if you make one mistake or somebody perceives that you made a mistake, it's over. The world looks at you different. Excuse me, allergies. But when you try to do the best for the world, you kind of lose yourself in the process. It's like, am I going to be appreciated for who I am and not just what I do? Is a big answer. What do you think, Doctor and Kareem?
Well, Charles, so first of all, Man of Steel, what I liked about it was not just a superhero movie, but it also was like a science fiction movie. That's how I saw it in terms of terraforming and what the Kryptonians were looking to do, and it was very much a science fiction movie to me as well. And also, you know what? That's a good point. I never noticed that Superman gradually loses his smile. The more he interacts with human conflict and human beings and Lex Luthor and those kinds of things.
And it's funny because I know the scientist in you was piqued with curiosity, and when you talk about this terraforming and how a lot of his abilities were based in the realm of science in some way, as close as we could get it today, and the terraforming. And it's funny because notice how it just wears on him. It just, despite he has impenetrable skin, that's not his heart. So he still has that very human heart. But think about if he was raised Kryptonian, you could see, and the beautiful thing they displayed is the difference between Superman and the rest of the Kryptonians. I'm not saying they were not capable of feelings, but they were mission first. They were mission only. He was supposed to represent the ability to choose your destiny, if you will.
Yes, and he also had to, I guess, in a way, separate from his own people because they wanted to terraform the Earth and turn it into the new Krypton, and so that was a choice he had to make at the end of that movie.
Oh yeah, that's the big part, because when when we delve into that movie, a lot of people didn't. A lot of concepts I noticed threw over a lot of people's minds, because it was really a coming of age story. It was a really good coming of age story, and so much so that you really had to say, okay, if I was in this guy's shoes, what will I have done? So, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kareem.
Oh yeah, I was saying too is also like his nature versus nurture. Like he was raised, even though he's Kryptonian, he's raised to have a heart. He's raised to love people. They are, like you said, mission first. They don't care about feelings. Where's Mr. Sheep? We need him. That Superman, to me, I think he represents the good, and his people, the Kryptonians. I wouldn't say they're bad, but they're not good. They're not good, and I always like Superman, but I think Superman is one dimensional. I don't think of him as complex as Officer Faulkner thinks of him. I just think he represents goodness and the ideal. You know what I mean? I don't, I didn't think of Superman as like complex to me. That's something when I watch the movie again, I think I'll probably think about when I watch it. But yeah, that's new for me. I never really thought of him as not smiling.
It's really, when you look at the movie, I challenge anybody to look at Man of Steel. You compare it to any Marvel movie you want, and you'll be like, dude, I just watched it. And you just look at it, and you look at his progression. You look at the fact that he might even be a little lost sometimes because he's new to it. And you'll be like, oh my God, I just watched a damn masterpiece. And it's overwhelming for a lot of people due to the fact that when you get into the psyche of this person, what makes them tick? And that's the motivating factor of the character. What makes him tick? Is he why is he the Man of Steel? Is he the Man of Steel due to being his invulnerability, or due to his his unrelenting will. And you look at it like there's times he could have gave up. Like, why do I need to give myself up for people who would throw me under the bus anyway? But I always told people Superman is a reflection on how we say morality. That's why when you look at, like Dr. Dunbar mentioned earlier, there was a lot of biblical references in B versus S. And it was put there purposely because you have a godlike figure that does not have to interact with the world. And it humbles a lot of us. It humbles a lot of us because if we had the same abilities and powers, would we do the same? I'm just saying, not a sermon, just a thought.
Okay, my take on Superman is, like I said, very like he's like above everything. He's so like pure. Like I don't want to see him as anything else. You understand? Like for me, Superman. So that's why I didn't like Batman versus Superman. Maybe because of that, because they played him. They didn't make him strong to me. I felt like he was not as the Superman in my mind that I'd seen as a kid. And
yeah.
I hated that. I hated that Superman wasn't strong and well, he was strong, but he wasn't. They didn't make him light, and you know how they made it so dark. Like I think they should have made Superman a little bit more brighter. I felt like he was faded in the movie in Batman versus Superman. Like towards the movie, it was. I think they probably purposely did it. He looked kind of like a shadow over him. It was. I don't know. I didn't like it. I hate Superman. I want Superman to be strong, just ideal, just perfect. I hate when they do stuff like this. I really do.
I feel you, but the craziness about it is that when you look at the character, he's supposed to be a dichotomy. He's really what you call the ultimate immigrant. You know, he's what, you know, that the American ideals that, you know, anybody can make it in America, even if they're not from America and all this other stuff. But yet we had to look at him like if he was in 2020 and you have all these abilities and all you want to do is be normal. Think about it. What if you can't hug your girlfriend as hard as you want because you're afraid of killing her? You don't even know if you two can produce. I mean, well, they have the Superman and Lois show, so in some universes he can produce children with a human woman, and some he can't. There was the Richard Donner. Oh, in the show he has kids, 2 kids with Lois Lane. I think they're twins, but think about it.
Lara, with Wonder Woman, didn't they say he had a kid with Wonder Woman?
And some continuities.
Okay.
And some continuities.
Well, Charles, you know, one of the things that you said that impressed me the most, I was listening to you on one of your streams, was that each of those 3 stands for an ideal. So
Yeah.
Superman stands for hope.
Yep.
Wonder Woman stands for truth.
Mm-hmm.
And Batman stands for justice.
Yep.
Okay. I never thought about it that way.
If you ever get a chance to look at John Byrne's book, The Trinity, I believe it's his book. Oh, if it's his book because I have an autographed hardback copy.
Yeah.
It's funny because you'll see how the first time they all interact together. Like when Superman sees Wonder Woman coming out of her invisible jet, he says Lois is the most compelling woman I've met, but this is the most stunning. Like even Superman got eyes. So he sees it, he's like, wow. Like this isn't like there's some people in this planet that are just uncommonly beautiful. And to him, when he works with Batman, there's a distrust, but there's a respect between them before they get to know each other. And the glue is Wonder Woman because people think Batman's violent. I mean, Wonder Woman has no qualms about deadly force. She has no qualms against it. So a lot of their ideals will come in conflict, even for the greater good. So you look at Superman. The reason why, and it states in the books why he doesn't wear a mask, is because he wants people to look at him and see hope and not be scared or afraid in situations. When you see Batman, he's supposed to be the justice. He's supposed to be that avenging angel coming out of nowhere. Like, you can't, like, even if the law can't get you, I'm gonna get you. That type of justice. Notice he could have picked one of his sayings is justice, not vengeance. So you're gonna get a lot of that those episodes where you get why did he kill the Joker yet? Hold on.
Well, we know that he has a rule where he doesn't kill, right? At least that's what they brought out in the Christopher Nolan movies.
Yeah, like, he was the hope that people see when, there's an earthquake or a natural disaster or fire. You see this guy reaching his hand out, smiling. It gives people that sense of hope, like everything's going to be okay, even though. And if you really want to see that aspect of Superman, one of the best books or series I can give you is All-Star Superman. One of the best scenes of him being hope is not him doing something ultra his like heroic. It's the fact that he stops a girl from jumping off a building. And he says, well, it's true. You're a psychiatrist was stuck in traffic. And he basically says, look, we all fall. Even I do. But just give it one more day. And he's talking her down. Like, he just catches her before she takes one more foot off. And he talks to her and hugs her. And that's the character Superman. He's supposed to be the guy that, that talks to you. Like, like an older brother or uncle or father figure. When you look at Wonder Woman, she's truth. She has to represent everything that's true in the world, because without truth, everything else is pretty broken. And when you look at her, she had to find out her truth. Who are you truly? She had to be the truest member of the Justice League. Notice that she's the one that keeps everybody on their toes. She has to speak the truth, no matter how ugly it may be. Because without truth, you don't have trust. And without trust, you don't have unity. And that played on it a lot. But anybody else take on it?
Well, when you said, the first thing I thought about when you said that she represents truth, I thought about the magic lasso.
Me too.
Yeah, which he uses to get the truth out of people. Yeah. So all these years, I never appreciated that those themes were built into those characters. So.
Oh yeah, that's 30 years of over 30 years of reading this stuff. You be like, oh my God, this is what they represent.
Okay. Guys, so we'll rock for another 15 minutes or so. So going back, so the Ben Affleck, so he was the truest, Charles, in your opinion, he was the truest depiction of Batman on the silver screen. I didn't realize Ben Affleck was 6'4". I didn't realize he was that stout, that tall, that imposing.
He looks it on screen though. He looks big. I was like, whoa. I was like, what is Ben Affleck?
Yeah, he looks like a damn bruiser. He looks like a guy who, many of his fights look like brutal bar fights. Like, if you look at the brutality, he's not in there trying to show. He's not in there trying to go toe to toe with you. He's trying to take you out.
Right. He looks like he wants to dominate you. Like the way he looks heavy. For some reason, when I watch it, it's like there's a heaviness in him. He's a good actor. I have to give him that. I have to.
Yeah, it's like when you look at him, he's the Batman that bit, bop, just a ridge hand to the jugular. He's just gonna stop you in your tracks with everything he hits. And when you actually see that scene where he's rescuing Martha Kent, there were no punches pulled. It was just bit, bit, bit. He's just going through people. And everything and anything in that warehouse was a weapon. That's how quick on his feet he was. Like the one guy, he he haymakers into the ground, and you're like, good God Almighty. And you're just like, Jesus Christ, why y'all still fighting this guy? I think he's enjoying beating the hell out of you.
Yeah, in that scene, they really let him show what he could do. Yeah, and my brother told me that Christian Bale isn't a big guy.
He had to. Funny thing about him. This is why I respect him. He had played that role before where he had lost a lot of freaking weight. I mean, he went down to maybe 100 pounds or something like that, and he had to bulk up to get to play Batman. So I have to respect him. Yeah, I have to respect him.
He had to bulk up to 220 pounds.
He's a good actor. He got. I have to give him credit for that. He's a good. To put your body through all of that.
Yeah, and my brother told me that Christian Bale got tired of wearing the suit.
He seems his personality when you watch his interviews. He doesn't like to. I think that's his personality. He's not gonna. He wouldn't last. He's not. He don't have the charismatic. To stay with the fan base, like you need to have to play these roles. Because the fan base, the fandom.
When you think of one dimension, he was a very one-dimensional Batman.
You think
he
so?
wasn't as he wasn't layered. When you look at Bruce, you didn't see him do the same stuff when he was in the suit. You might have seen him stick some gadgets and steal some data or information.
I think the reason why people don't see it is because of the Joker performance. A lot of people said that the Joker Heath Ledger performance of the Joker just dominated that movie, and it really kind of outshined his performance of Batman. So that's why a lot of people don't give him the credit, of him playing it very well, because the Joker just dominated that movie. His performance was so, complex and on point in every scene that he couldn't even play. He couldn't match it.
Yeah, and it's crazy because we look at Heath Ledger and when he plays the Joker, correct? But yet we didn't. If you looked at the Snyder Cut and you seen the interaction between Affleck's Batman and what's his name? What's the guy's name? His Joker. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Is that Leto? Is that Jared Leto?
Yeah, Jared Leto. Jared Leto was creepy, and I loved it.
He's creepy, but
we got robbed from his Joker. This is the reason why I hate theatrical cuts. If Warner Brothers actually stayed off the fornication of the king, fornication under the consent of the king. You get the gist, don't you, Doc? But if they would have stayed out of their way, I think that his Joker would have been up there, if maybe not better than
Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because you saw a glimpse of the interaction between his Affleck, and we got robbed from it. We literally are getting robbed. When you see the interaction of his creepy Joker, it was like the chemistry between them two. We literally got robbed from it. And this is a guy who has to work with this Joker during the Nightmare Batman scene. And you're like, my God, what are we doing here?
Oh, you're talking about the end of the Snyder Cut?
Yeah,
Right.
the end of the
Yeah, that
process.
was good. That was good.
I love the Snyder Cut because I felt like why didn't I watched all 4 hours of it. I watched it because based on your recommendation. I watched it and I was like, wow. If they had put this movie out, well, they probably couldn't do 4 hours, but if they had put this original movie out when the Justice League came out back in 2017, this movie would have been probably gross higher than freaking maybe not Marvel, but
it would have been $1 billion movie.
Yeah,
and I'm just thinking to myself, like, we got robbed from a lot of good performances. Like, I understand why Ray Fisher was pissed. You literally killed his whole arc.
Right.
You literally killed his arc. You didn't give him any shine. You killed the Flash. Like, I like the fact that the Flash was this goofy kid. I like that. He should be. He should be this goofy ass kid who's socially awkward, trying to find his way. And it's like you're not giving the fans what they desire. Like, yeah, we grew up with these characters, but we want to see the modern theatrical take on them. Snyder is a freaking genius. Like,
Yeah.
if they gave Snyder control of that universe, they would be pumping out. I mean, they would be printing money.
They did.
They did
With the Spider Cut. They did introduce more about his family, Ray Fisher's family. Like they really went to the story. And with the Flash, they even put it. I remember Iris being in the original one. Was she in the original Justice League? I don't think she was.
Not to cut her out.
So that part was great. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who's these people, who's the head of these media houses, because they should own their jobs. They're not. People are not gonna. They figured they have a fan base that no matter what they put out, people's gonna go see. But they have to do better. They have to do better. We're charging so much money for these movies.
They're right. They're right that people do show up to go see it.
Yeah.
You need to work out.
Who else do we have in here?
Yeah, Shot. What thanks for coming up. What do you have to say on that?
My pleasure.
What's up, Shot?
Well, so I found it.
You got to give us a woo.
Oh yeah. Oh, a what?
A woo.
A woot woot.
Woo.
Woo.
There you go.
Sorry, I missed the ritual. Now I found the channel because you did a review of Our Kind of People, and so I just subscribed and happened to see the live.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's probably the most popular video on this channel. So I appreciate you coming over here and taking a look at this. I'm still growing this channel, so. But yeah,
I think you're gonna do just fine, because I think a more intellectual side of Black YouTube is forming, and I see yourself having a nice little slice of that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Do you it looks like you had some comments in the chat about the DC universe and Batman and the stuff. Do you have any?
Yeah, my thing is that I think the real problem, and I love Snyder as a director. So, for many movies now, right? He's been top of his game. It's hard for, I think, the cartoon or the comic book movies in general, Marvel or DC, to do a villain right. And I think that really diminishes the quality of the entire package. The Dark Knight stood out, in my opinion, because it was the first time in a long time we had a good villain. A villain that was almost, if not easily, more attractive than the hero, right? Because Bale was just like the mannequin that Heath Ledger's Joker was the real outfit, right? Batman was like the mannequin, Heath Ledger and the Joker was the suit that was on display, in my opinion.
Exactly. It was like he was being, yes, the villain should have shine. But when I looked at Leto and Ben Affleck interaction, you were equally entertained by what they were going to say. Like, oh my God, he's going there. He's going there.
I love Leto. I thought Leto's Joker has a lot of potential.
And we got robbed from it.
I think it started with, I think the problem was they tried to insert way too much male gaze on the Margot Robbie Harley Quinn. And I think that steered Suicide Squad wrong. And then everything else was kind of cascaded from that, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. It's like they had a good opportunity to capitalize on a Joker within the universe that can wreak havoc. He has no no rhyme, no reason. But go ahead, Doc. I'm sorry.
So, Shot, when you say a male gaze, what are you referring to there?
So, if you look at the first Suicide Squad movie and compare it to how the independent Harley Quinn movies were shot, Harley Quinn was much more sexualized in Suicide Squad. The way the camera angles were, how she was Joker's pet, and they had like a striptease segment in the club and so on. Whereas in the other one, she's much more of a developed character. And now, if you can imagine, if the Joker was in the other movie where Harley was much more of her own character, that gives you so much more interaction space for the Joker himself to be a full character, as opposed to just that cameo appearance that he was in Suicide Squad. You know what I mean? Because part of why the Batman animated series was so popular was the interaction, because we all know Joker is a crazy character, homicidal, criminal, mastermind, right? But then he had this relationship that you got to see, and occasionally they would break up and get back together, and he have to please her or whatever, you know? I think that tug of war, and I think the Harley Quinn phenomenon brought so many more women into the space that there was a lot of opportunity there to take it to the next level and sort of give, maybe even make the movies deeper than the comics were because of that added dimension.
And I like to piggyback off of that. I would like to say this. I don't mind female representation if it's done right, just like I don't mind male representation. If a female's kicking the asses of a guy, make it make sense. Okay, why is Black Widow kicking the asses of guys 6'5"? Oh, she's a trained assassin. Okay, it makes sense. You should, as long as you don't have the same stuff you had with Ray and those debacles where, how the hell did you know nothing of the Force and you got a guy who literally was training under one of, if probably one of the greatest Jedi masters of all time, Luke Skywalker, and he was trained by the Sith, and you match wits with him and overcome him in a lightsaber duel. Get out of here! Get out of here! So it doesn't. There's women who said this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I will never forgive them for not giving me my Mara Jade.
Yeah, but you know, if you have somebody like, what's the one from the Clone Wars, Ahsoka? If you had Ahsoka, it would make sense. Like, because Ahsoka, even though she was a rookie, she was trained by Jedi Knights, and she was with a master. So, you know, since we see the older version of her in The Mandalorian, it would make sense she could overcome people because she's heavily trained.
What did you think about Ray's? Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say I agree with the representation thing. I think they OD'd. Like, just write it properly. Give us a good story and make it make sense, and everybody will love it. They OD'd. Okay.
You know what I appreciated about Wonder Woman? What is it, 88 or 84?
1984, yeah.
Yeah, when she was the girl and she was cheating, they could have went about it and let her get away with it. But they were like, nope, you're going to have to earn this one. And she's like, but I could have won. You didn't earn it. And it made sense. You could have put a guy in the same conclusion and it would have made sense. A female in the same scenario made sense. And notice how the Wonder Woman trailers, movies, where Steve Trevor wasn't the bumbling idiot. He was actually helpful, and he actually saved her life a couple of times.
And he was good looking.
Had to throw that in. Hey.
I know, right?
Have you experienced a Campbellian hero's journey where the main character was a woman that satisfied you?
Well, the first Wonder Woman movie did. Back in the 80s, She-Ra, Princess of Power, it did. Especially the episode called The Stone and the Sword, where the stone or the gem and the sword, the sword of protection was cracked. And she had to go as just Adora and go through these trials to get the gem repaired. That, that showed her cunning, her wits, her training. It wasn't about the power. And they even said it in the cartoon. It was just, she did all this not for glory or power, but just to help a friend. Kind of deep, isn't it?
It is. The first movie that comes to mind for me is The Devil Wears Prada for some reason. I can't think of anything else.
Aliens with Ripley.
Oh, well, Aliens, was that a hero's journey, though?
Well, that was kind of. I mean, we can even look at Sarah Connor from the Terminator.
Yeah, Sarah Connor, I think, is a good one.
Terminator.
Because everybody knows the first Terminator was a horror movie. The second was a sci-fi action movie.
The second was the best.
And notice you seen the growth. You seen the growth of her character, where she was afraid and scared of her shadow, as anybody would be. And notice how she was battling Terminators for so long. She became very gritty and capable, or she would have died.
Do you pay attention to the Bechdel test?
No, please explain.
Okay, so the Bechdel test, it comes from this lesbian written comic strip where you need to have two named female characters on screen. They have to interact and talk about something other than a guy. And so in the original comic strip, one of the characters says, I haven't been able to watch a movie since Aliens, because that was the last time in 1989 when in a major movie you had two female characters interact and the subject not be a man.
Well,
and that's called the Bechdelian test?
The Bechdel test. I think the author was Bechdel, yeah.
Well, my response to that is, women, out of just their nature, do not do the daring stuff typically that men do. Even when they tried to push them into male spaces, women still went where they like to be, normalized. Women are going to tend to be in more child care, nursing, nurturing aspects. Not saying I've dated female police officers, dated female soldiers. I'm not saying they're not capable, but there's a reason why certain jobs went to certain people. It's not saying, oh, because you're a girl, you're capable. It's just this natural. I'm pretty sure Kareem, as big as a comic book fan as she is, she doesn't want to grow a full beard and spit and get a whole bunch of tattoos.
Definitely not.
So when we look at it, women talk about things that are not involved about men. I'm not ashamed of it. They're listening to it. Well, some of my best conversations are with women. Well, we're talking about nothing. We're talking about situational things, and it doesn't have to do with anything about a guy or sex or their bad hair days. One, because I'm not gonna sit there and listen, and two, you're gonna have to be a little bit more captivating. Hey, be a little bit more worldly for me.
Like, can you think of a movie or a comic where two female characters planned a heist together without male input?
The Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. What was another one? You had a lot of good stories from the A-Force. You had one good story from the A-Force. I mean, when the Red Hulk was introduced, you had a good story with She-Hulk, Thunder, and Valkyrie tracking down the Red Hulk, and they had very good interactions as women trying to track down this really brutal beast like Hulk. So that was a good one. A lot of the Wonder Womans, a lot of the George Perez Wonder Woman, and I forget the other one who's very close to his art style. He had a good take. I mean, there are so many. You had Power Girl and Wonder Woman, team up and sometimes fight. And it's comical at times because you have the straight-laced Wonder Woman who, depending on which continuity, she's still a little naive about man's world. So it depends on the story. I mean, you got some buddy comic essence going on, but if it's like this, like, I don't mind female artists and writers. Some of my favorite artists are females and are writers as well. They just got to make a more compelling case for the story. Like, hey, if I give you a blank sheet and say make 2 female characters, I'll say one book that gives you a lot of good shit. Rat Queens.
I love Rat Queens. Yeah, I love that. Read that one.
My ex-girlfriend loves that book. She loves it.
What's it called?
Rat Queens.
If you want to see some slapstick action with women,
yeah,
medieval times, drinking, sexual debauchery, and just a good old time, Rat Queens.
Yeah, I found it in a comic book store in Berkeley because a friend of mine had gotten sick, so she's gonna be in not the hospital, but she'd be laid up in the hotel for a couple days. So I said, okay, before she gets bored, let me try and find something that might impress her, right? You know how that means. And the store proprietor recommended it. I flipped through it. She loved it. It was a big hit, so I kept reading it. It was an excellent recommendation.
It's a good book. All female cast. I mean, there's some guys in it, but those girls are zany. They're zany.
So where do comic book movies go from here?
Well, you're no longer on Earth. You got to go to the universe.
I just hope they don't, over on the Marvel side, I hope they don't tank the whole thing. I mean, I know they have their social justice and woke narratives they want to put in, but I just hope they don't ruin the whole thing.
But why do they want to put it in? Or at least why do they do it? Because, I grew up, so I was born in 81, so I'm 40 now.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in junior high school, everything for me comic was X-Men. Spin-off, like Excalibur, X-Force, Captain Britain, and whatever they had over it.
Excalibur was
Excalibur.
British.
Who was it? Omega Flight? Alpha Flight?
Alpha Flight. Canada.
Yep, in Canada. So that was my universe for comics. I didn't read much DC stuff. I didn't get too much into Image and Spawn. And, the X-Men storylines were quite mature. They were quite mature. They touched on, racism from the angle of the mutants and the humans. They had some gender issues in there. They did relationship drama with Cyclops and Psylocke and Jean Grey and Wolverine. So you got to see all those angles. And I don't understand, if they're going to do social justice, right, whatever you call it, why does it have to be written so poorly and so bluntly? Because don't they realize when you make it blunt, you sort of dilute the message because if people tone it out?
I wonder who said that before in this stream. See, but I have to bow when I say this. Chris Claremont, hallowed be our name. He's the guy responsible for the X-Men the way you know and love them.
Yep. Peace be upon him.
Yeah, peace be upon him. You got to realize this shows you the lack. It goes now. We got to go into a little bit of the education piece. Who's teaching these bastards how to write? You're not getting quality. You're getting, let's get a quick hit because Black Lives Matter. Nobody ever says, why do they matter? Have they mattered? What's the function of what you're trying to portray? And a lot of times we get into these narratives, and instead of saying, Okay. Great example. Instead of just making a mini-series, because I've never heard anybody speak badly about Isaiah Bradley, why not tell the stories of some of his adventures? And just like, what if Isaiah Bradley would have never been affected? Or what would you do if you were in Isaiah Bradley's shoes? Or you know, like what it like it's crazy to think that you're only doing it just to make a narrative. Like when they were gonna do the New Warriors and destroy that comic and their legacy, you're like, wow, you're so hell bent on putting like look what they did to speaking of X-Men, look what they did to Iceman.
Yeah.
The most womanizing comic book character of all time, and you made him gay. And you came up with the hokiest reason.
That was a strange one. That was really odd, wasn't it?
Oh, they made Iceman rainbow?
Oh, yeah. It was weird. It was like, it didn't make sense. Like, everybody who knew Iceman, I don't care if you watched Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, you knew that Iceman loved the ladies. He was the ladies' man. And to make him gay just to appease a certain audience who probably would never buy the comic is asinine. You had North Star this entire time. Brother man been gay since the 70s. He gets married to a black guy. And it's funny because I'm not trying to go all racial, but why is it that when you see a white character, they always have to be married to a black man?
Like which one?
Like
if it's gay, yeah.
Yeah. It's
mostly every TV show and movie you watch. That's how it is.
And it's funny because I don't see it like that. And in reality, I work in a district. I live in the city of Baltimore. I work in the city of Baltimore as a police officer. You rarely see black and white. If you do see, which is rare, a gay couple, it's going to be black and white and white. You don't get, and it's not saying it can't happen. It just doesn't work the same way, like the dynamics. Like, for example, when you notice all the commercials with notice the Asians can be with the Asians, the whites can be with the whites, the Arabs can be with the Arabs, but the black couple cannot exist together on TV.
No. It'll be either the adventurous, quirky black lady with the like alpha nerd white guy, or it'll be the typical black male, white female type of situation.
Yeah.
You know what commercial is standing out to me? That the family in the SUV.
Yeah, I know the one you mean. I know exactly the one you mean.
And it doesn't even look organic. And they're giving us stuff that doesn't even look organic. Like, wait a minute. They look like they have nothing in common. Like, I could understand if it was like, hey, and the kids are like, I guess if you're a black kid who's dark skinned, you can't find a role in none of these commercials. No. We need them. If you're light skinned, we can make it happen. But not if you're dark. But it's crazy because they're giving you narratives they want to keep pumping out that do not really exist.
Did you ever watch Robotech?
Well, some of it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that was my joint.
Yeah, Roy Fokker, Claudia Grant. That was probably one of the first quote unquote on screen interracial relationships I remember.
Yeah.
Hey, Shot, question.
Yes, sir.
Most of those characters, because I know that came over from Japan, were those characters originally Japanese?
Well, originally, like some of the original Macross, it was taking place in a multinational facility on Macross Island. So they weren't explicitly Japanese, but they had Japanese names for the most part. And then you had Carl Masak rewrote the 3 independent series into the Robotech saga when it came over here.
Okay, because that's the same thing they did with Voltron, right? Voltron was originally a Japanese
quality.
Yeah.
And even though if you ever watch the Japanese, I forget what it's called, Big Cat something, that is a very violent series.
Oh, is it?
Oh, it's violent.
A few of them are like that.
Like Sailor Moon is not what you think. It's violent. Even though one of my favorite animes of all time, Project Echo.
Oh, don't get me started on that one. Was it Biko's Bay for me?
Yeah. Project Echo, man, I love that. It's comedy but action, but it's so funny.
It was great.
And that's what, and you can see the differences of the time because it's very similar in the art style to, like, let's say Fist of the North Star or Ninja Scroll, which both of those hallowed be their name.
Yep, came a bit later, but yeah. Like for me, and I remember the day. I went into Blockbuster Video and I saw the box for the Bubblegum Crisis for the first time, and it changed my life because the soundtrack to the Bubblegum Crisis and even the soundtrack to Project Echo, they just changed my taste forever. And I've always been into like female fronted rock, right? Pris and all her songs in there. And I can still remember Jealous Eyes from Project Echo and that beautiful piano melody and everything.
Oh yeah, I mean they had a lot of, especially the '80s ones. They had a lot of good. They had a lot of American influence when it came to music, and you would hear a lot of that rock. And it's kind of funny because if you look at pro wrestling back in that time in the '80s and '90s, especially with All Japan and New Japan, a lot of the influence from the mangas and the animes were into the pro wrestling.
Yep. Was it Streets of Fire?
Oh yeah, shout out to Kazuki Kasaki.
Was it Diane Lane, Streets of Fire? So it's like you had Blade Runner, and then you had Streets of Fire, and then in the Bubblegum Crisis, you had almost word for word lines and bits of melody in the songs then. And then when America began to bring some of it back, it kind of like what happened with the Magnificent Seven and the Seven Samurai, where you sort of forget who influenced who first because it goes back so far.
I'm glad you mentioned Samurai 7, which is a classic.
Okay, Charles, I gotta give a confession here. Give me a brief synopsis of Bubblegum Island.
The Bubblegum Crisis?
Crisis.
It's a space from what I remember, because this was so long. It was like a space adventure. I think
the Bubblegum Crisis is iconic cyberpunk. So it takes place in 2030. So it's Mega Tokyo 2030, and basically we have AI and we have androids. So the main villain of the series are what they call boomers, and they're basically combat robots, right? But they're autonomous. They have their own personalities and whatnot. The main characters are 4 women who operate as a mercenary team, fighting them because one of the ladies' father was one of the inventors of the combat robots. So to counter it, he also developed these hard suits that humans can wear and put them on an equal parity with the combat robots. And that's sort of the milieu that takes place in.
Oh yeah.
But I would say it's the definitive, in my opinion, it's the definitive cyberpunk anime until Ghost in the Shell comes along 7 years later.
Oh yeah, Ghost in the Shell. Like, I like the series better than the movie.
I do as well. I like the series more because of the fleshed out characters like Sato, who is my favorite character of the whole series.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Motoko is the dream girl.
I have a question for you, Doc.
Yep.
If you had the opportunity to take the Super Soldier Serum, would you?
Wow. See, Kareem's laughing. You know what? I think I would. Yeah.
Like, who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want to be able to run like 70, 80 miles per hour without sweating? Have the ability to buy some curl helicopters, jump like 20 stories down without killing yourself. I mean, how to live like Charles Faulkner every day.
Yeah, you'd be pretty much invincible.
Yeah. Like, I'm just thinking to myself, what's the average? Think about this for a second. The average person the average male in America is what, about 5'8", 195 pounds. Can only bench press 130 pounds. So if you're in the 200 range, you're pretty much superhuman. But and it's just like the heaviest I've lifted was almost 500 pounds off my chest. Overhead, standing up was about 270, 275. So I'm just thinking, if I had that little boost, oh man.
What are the downsides though?
Menopause, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Something that you can probably really, really handle. As long as I don't get male breast, I'm okay.
There's no downsides. You live for 200 years. Main mental. The mental.
I would rather have the gummy berry juice than the super soldier serum.
The gummy berry juice.
Well, if you're human, it gives you temporarily the same thing if you're human.
But it's temporary. Because I think there are some downsides to being so strong for your size. Like, would you have a harder time opening cans of soda?
That's why you hire a midget to do it for you.
Wow. They have a union. You have to do it.
Yeah. Like,
guys.
So go ahead, sir.
So we'll go for about 10 more minutes. We're going back to the Japanese anime. There was one that I really liked. Have you guys ever seen Goku Midnight Eye?
Oh no, can't say that I have. Tell me about it.
Oh, it's okay. So you're in Japan, right? And you have this special unit, and there's a bad guy named Genji Hakudo, and people are mysteriously dying, and there's always this naked Japanese woman with these peacock feathers around every murder, every death, and so the bad guy basically starts taking out the everyone on this team, and Goku, he's the last one to go down, and his car basically flies off the bridge, and he's looking at this woman. There's a high-speed chase, and she lands on a 18-wheeler in front of him, and when he sees that she's about to hypnotize him with her peacock feathers, he basically takes a knife to his eye, and his car goes off the bridge into the river. And someone, you don't know who it is, gives him a replacement eye, which is bionic. He can see things, he can activate, he can interface with computers, and he gets this stick, this rod that can basically take out. It's a weapon, and so basically he goes ahead and kills the bad guy. I don't want to stretch it out because I haven't seen it too long, but I saw it in a nightclub in New York City one night. I was out and I was looking at it, and then I tracked it down on VHS, and it was kind of cool.
80s golden era anime make great backdrops in nightclubs.
Yeah,
they do.
They do. Like every time when I went to a club and they played some anime, it's funny as hell because I'm not saying I'm a ladies' man, but I've been known to be a great host. It's funny because I'm more interested in the anime than talking to her.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Oh, so can we go to your place tonight? Yeah. I'm trying to see what happens next on this one.
Yep. You got the liquor, the music's blasting, and you're just sitting there staring at the screen.
Well, didn't Daft Punk cut the middleman out with One More Time, where the music video for it is like an 80s anime?
Yeah, I mean, they had I've actually put it on my Facebook page. It's like, if you get all the videos together, it's like a whole damn movie.
So, all right. Does anyone have any parting thoughts? Or we branched out a little bit. We covered a lot.
Oh yeah, we just have a little bit of BGS drift. That's all.
I know, right? Well, I'll say this. And I forgot to mention this in my little monologue. Going back to the Christian Bale Batman, one of the things that they did with in the Dark Knight and the Dark Knight Rises is that he wanted to turn his head. So they changed the suit up a little bit so that he could turn his head, because in the opening of the Dark Knight, I think he was taking down the Scarecrow and he jumped on the side of the van. He couldn't see the ledge coming. But I thought that suit was a little less imposing. I liked the original suit with this broad neck, because I thought it made him a little more menacing and imposing. And when they switched over to this one, I thought it looked a little bit different.
Yeah, he didn't look as intimidating. But put that neck side by side to Ben Affleck's, and you'll see the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, this is not the Batman we wanted. This is the Batman we needed.
The stiff neck suit looks like it has more menacing traps.
So which one?
The one that has the stiff neck, like the old school. It looks like it has more menacing traps, right? Like a big bouncer with traps, as opposed to kind of a pencil neck, whatever.
I wish I was a pencil neck. I got a 21 inch neck. Stretch be damned.
But hey, any of these Batmans are much more menacing than this Batman.
The Adam West Batman, in my opinion, I think was to take out all of them, because I just think he was smarter.
You had to be if you dress like that.
You had to be like that. That would scare me more. I'm like, okay, this guy is here dressed like that. It reminds me of, if you watch a kung fu movie, right? Whenever you see an old man with gray hair, that's the guy you have to be scared of, not the young buck with the muscles flexing. Because if he lived to be that long in this environment,
he's dangerous. Like, he is dangerous.
Well, fellas, thank you for the invite. I enjoyed myself, and I can't wait till you guys do another one.
Hey, Shot, thanks for subbing. Thanks for coming in. Yeah.
Don't be a stranger. Always welcome. Woo! Thank you for letting us into your Saturday evening or afternoons. Woo! About to put my clothes on, go out there in style and profile and have a good time.
All right. Hey, Charles. Yeah, man. Sometime soon we gotta, get up and do some drinks and.
Oh yeah, we gotta show the people the recording of this one. It's gonna be fun.
All right. Yeah, knocking the cop. All right.
Thank you, Kareem.
Kareem, you want to say anything?
The MVP.
Thank you, guys. I had a great discussion. Have a great Saturday.
Okay. Yeah, pretty soon. We're gonna have a discussion here about the Snyder Cut, because I haven't done one, and I know some other guys who want to talk about it. So that'll be forthcoming. Anyhow, thanks for coming up, Kareem, and everyone, thank you for those of you who watched. If you're watching on the playback, please like this stream. Please share it. And hey, please subscribe to the channel. We started off in a certain place in this one, and we bounced around into, Marvel and the social justice woke agenda. Then when Shot came on, we bounced over into some anime, and that's cool, because that's what this space was set up to do. It was set up to bounce around. So, wow, look at this. I'm logging off, and my viewer count is going up. How about that? Hey, if you guys are new coming in, at least please hit the like on this stream and get it into double digits. So if you're just coming in, we talked about why Charles disliked, why he thought the Ben Affleck Batman was the best Batman / Bruce Wayne out of them all, especially in comparison to the Christian Bale Batman / Bruce Wayne. I think the prevailing opinion was that the Christian Bale Batman slash Bruce Wayne was a little too one-dimensional, and they were pretty much the same character in comparison to this Batman slash Bruce Wayne, who was a little bit more older, a little more grizzled, a little more bitter, a little more angry. And also the distinction was, I think the gold standard is the Christopher Reeve Superman. So Charles discussed how Christopher Reeve played the aloof, nerdy, awkward Clark Kent one way, and then he was able to play the Man of Steel and as his polar opposite. So a type of night and day type of thing. So Christian Bale was kind of playing the exact same guy with very little distinction between the two. So we're going to have more discussions like this here. And we're going to have a discussion at some point on the Justice League Snyder Cut, because I know quite a few folks who have opinions on that. And I know quite a few folks who really, really liked it. I know that I did. So I'm going to stop this here. Again, please like, share, subscribe. Always remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and I will talk to you later. If you want to leave something in the tip jar, that information is below this live stream on the playback. And also, I'm going to show this before I sign off. At the beginning of this live stream, I showed my new writer's website, Big Words Authors. If you are a new and aspiring author, I set up this website here. And you can, if you have a book project on the way, if you have a short story or an essay, or if you do poetry, you're welcome to submit your piece to this site for a fee or for a donation. So anyhow, I'm going to stop. This is going 2 hours. So stop my screen share. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. And I will talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.